Hello friends, this video on breathing and exchange of gases part 17 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Next question. What is the site of gaseous exchange in an insect? Now, as I had mentioned before, that insects have a specialized tracheal system for gaseous exchange. Now, this tracheal system, also the mechanism by which gaseous exchange happens is again diffusion. Now, what is the tracheal system? It is nothing but a network of tubes through which air is transported within the body. So that is called tracheal system. So these trachea are also known as the air tubes. So here you can see these tube-like systems, that is the tracheal system. Now these trachea open on the lateral surfaces through minute pores, and these pores are called as spiracles. So these pores which you see, these black colored dots, these are nothing but spiracles. So what happens is, through these minute pores, the oxygen enters inside. Now once the air reaches inside, through these tube-like structures, it reaches different parts of the body by diffusion. So these tube-like structures are the tracheal system. So from the oxygen or air from spiracles goes to trachea. From trachea it diffuses to different cells. So this is how oxygen moves. The carbon dioxide follow the reverse path. That is, it comes from different cells to the trachea. From trachea it comes to the spiracles. From spiracles it goes outside. Question number 7. Define oxygen dissociation curve. Can you suggest any reason for its sigmoidal pattern? So what is oxygen dissociation curve? Now, while we were discussing about the process of oxygen transport, so oxygen dissociation curve is nothing but a graph plotted for percentage saturation of oxyhemoglobin with respect to partial pressures of oxygen. As I said, oxygen has a high affinity to combine with hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin. But this affinity changes with partial pressures of oxygen. So now it is generally observed that the initial molecules find it very difficult to bind with the hemoglobin. However, once the formation starts, then the later molecules start to bind with hemoglobin quite easily. So this plot actually tells us, so if you take the partial pressure of oxygen along the x-axis, and if you take the saturation of oxyhemoglobin along y-axis, you tend to see that initially it was little difficult, and after that it actually increases. As the partial pressure of oxygen increases, the saturation for its binding with hemoglobin also increases. And then again later, once oxygen binding reaches a maximum level, at that time hemoglobin cannot take up more oxygen molecules. As I said, one molecule of hemoglobin can at the max combine with 4 molecules of oxygen. That is because they have 4 subunits which have iron and which can combine with oxygen. So once that point comes, then it reaches saturation, and that is why beyond that it is at the saturation level. So this is the reason why we get a sigmoid pattern. This kind of a shape is called a sigmoid curve. This is called a sigmoid curve is obtained for oxygen dissociation curve. Question number 8. Discuss about hypoxia. Now, hypoxia is a condition when there is insufficient supply of oxygen to the lungs. Now, there can be many different types of hypoxia. Now, this deficiency of oxygen can be because of less oxygen in the atmosphere. It can be because of some issues with the oxygen in the content of blood. It can be because there is nobody to carry oxygen in the blood. So there can be many different types of hypoxia. So there can be many different causes rather. For example, it could be because of low partial pressure of oxygen in the arterial blood, because the partial pressure of oxygen plays an important role. Because of this partial pressure, oxygen moves from one place to another. Now this condition is often known as hypoxemic hypoxia. This is known as hypoxemic hypoxia. Again, another cause could be the decrease in concentration of hemoglobin. Now, if there is not much hemoglobin, then oxygen will not be able to bind with hemoglobin to get carried or to get transported. So, this condition is known as anemic hypoxia. It can be due to poor blood circulation, which is known as stagnant hypoxia. Now, circulatory system plays a very important role because, as you saw, the oxygenated as well as the deoxygenated blood goes to the heart to get pumped to their respective locations. Now, if the blood circulation or the heart is not working properly, it can cause problems. It can also be due to carbon monoxide or cyanide poisoning in the tissues. During this time, the tissues will not be able to utilize even the oxygen which is present. So these are some of the scenarios, or these are some of the types of hypoxia. And it happens due to insufficient supply of oxygen to lungs. Let us look at the last question of this lesson. How is respiration regulated? Now, who regulates respiration? As we all know, in a human body, brain is the control center for each and every organ. So whatever we do, whatever life processes are taking place inside our body, the main control center is the brain. So brain sits there and it controls all the activities taking place inside our body. So the process of respiration also is controlled by the brain. Now, which part of the brain exactly? Now, the respiration centers are mostly located in these two parts, medulla and pons. These are the two parts where the respiratory centers are located, medulla and pons. These are the two parts. Now, let us see what is located where. Now, the respiratory rhythm center in medulla is responsible for regulating respiration. So, that portion of medulla which controls respiration activities is called the respiratory rhythm center. And in the pons, there is another region called the pneumotoxic region which regulate the respiratory rhythm center. So basically this is the center which controls the respiration activities, and this center itself is controlled by another center which is located in the pons. Now this pneumotoxic center can actually alter the duration of inspiration, that is like how fast will you breathe in air, how fast inspiration will take place, or how fast would be the respiration rate. So it can alter the respiratory rate also. So if you look at a magnified image of medulla and pons part, you can actually look at the different centers. So this center which you see here is the expiratory center which controls the rate of expiration. Similarly, this center is the inspiratory center which controls the rate of inspiration. Now, this center which you see here is the pneumotoxic region or the pneumotoxic center which is present in the pons. So this is how the process of respiration is regulated from the brain. So with this, we have reached towards the end of this lesson, and I hope that the concept of respiration or the concept of breathing and exchange of gases would have helped you. Please do understand that do not memorize anything because this is a very conceptual lesson. Please understand the concepts behind the exchange and transport of gases, and also understand the process of breathing. And once you understand them, I think there would be no need to memorize anything. So see you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.